I ain't much of a night owl, but one hot summer night, curiosity got the better of me. I couldn't sleep, so I decided to take a stroll around my quiet neighborhood. The moonlight bathed everything in an eerie glow, and I relished the cool breeze that kissed my cheeks as I walked. As I wandered aimlessly, I noticed a faint light emanating from an old abandoned house at the end of the street. It was strange because I could swear I'd never seen that light before. My curiosity piqued. I crept closer, trying not to make a sound. I peered through the dusty windows and my heart skipped a beat when I saw a silhouette of a mid-aged lady inside. Her back was turned towards me, and she seemed to be frantically shuffling through old belongings. I couldn't help but wonder what she was doing there in the dead of night. After a moment's hesitation, I decided to approach the house. The creaking of the old floorboards beneath my feet echoed eerily through the silence. My heart was racing, and I felt the sweat trickle down my forehead as I reached the front door. With trembling hands, I knocked gently. The lady inside froze, and the room fell silent. After what seemed like an eternity, the door slowly creaked open, revealing a pair of wide, fearful eyes staring back at me. She looked worn, with tattered clothes and disheveled hair, but her eyes were what struck me the most. They held an unmistakable sense of desperation and despair. "Hey, are you all right?" I asked, trying to sound as friendly as possible, despite my own unease. She hesitated for a moment before letting out a shaky breath. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. It's just that I lost something and I thought I might find it here." I couldn't just leave her like this, lost and alone in the darkness. "What did you lose? Maybe I can help you look for it," I offered. She hesitated again, biting her lip as if unsure whether to trust me or not. Eventually she whispered, "It's a locket, a precious family heirloom. I've been searching for it for days, and tonight, I thought I felt its presence in this house." My heart went out to her, and I felt an urge to help. "Okay, let's find your locket together. It's got to be here somewhere." We searched the old house room by room, our footsteps echoing through the empty halls. The place was unsettling, filled with dust, cobwebs, and remnants of forgotten lives. The silence was broken only by the occasional sound of a loose floorboard or the wind rustling the trees outside. As we delved deeper into the house, the atmosphere grew more oppressive. The walls seemed to whisper secrets, and the air felt heavy with sorrow. Despite the creeping unease, we pressed on, determined to find the missing locket. Then in a small, dimly lit room, we stumbled upon an old wooden chest. The lady's eyes lit up as she recognized it. "That's it! That's the chest my family used to keep their precious belongings in." We carefully opened it, revealing an assortment of tarnished jewelry and faded photographs. Among the items, I spotted a glimmer of silver. The lady reached in and pulled out a delicate locket, tears brimming in her eyes. "I can't believe it's here," she whispered, clutching the locket close to her heart. "Thank you. Thank you so much." As she held the locket, a sense of relief washed over both of us. But the eerie feeling persisted, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It was as if the house itself was harboring a dark secret. Just as we were about to leave, a sudden noise startled us. From the corner of the room, a tattered old photograph fluttered to the floor. It depicted the same lady we had found inside the house, but she looked different, happier. Beside her was a younger version of me, smiling warmly. My heart pounded and a chill ran down my spine. How could that be? I had never been inside this house before tonight. Yet there I was, captured in a photograph from years past. The lady's eyes met mine and she gasped, "It's you. But you were just a child." I was at a loss for words, unable to comprehend what I was seeing. The air seemed to grow colder, and an inexplicable sense of dread filled the room. "I don't understand," I stammered. "How is this possible?" The lady shook her head, her face pale. "I don't know, but this house, it's not what it seems. It's trapped in time, and it preys on lost souls like me, like you. That photograph is from another time, another life, and somehow this house connects them." My mind was spinning, trying to make sense of the impossible. But before I could say another word, the lady vanished before my eyes, leaving only the echo of her last words. Terrified and confused, I hurried out of the house and ran back to my own home. That night I couldn't sleep. I couldn't forget the haunted look in the lady's eyes, or the strange connection between us. From that day on, I avoided the abandoned house, afraid of what other secrets it might hold. But the memory of that night still haunts me, a chilling reminder that the line between reality and the supernatural is thinner than we'd like to believe, and sometimes the truth that lurks in the shadows can be more unsettling than any horror story. It was a chilly, moonless night when it happened. I had just finished my late shift and was craving some comfort food, so I decided to stop by the old diner at the edge of town. The place had seen better days, with its faded sign and peeling paint, but the smell of grilled burgers and nostalgia always drew me in. As I stepped inside, the warm glow of dim lights welcomed me, and the chatter of a few late-night customers filled the air. The jukebox in the corner hummed softly, playing an eerie tune that set the atmosphere just right for an unsettling encounter. I settled into a corner booth, my back against the wall, feeling somewhat cozy yet cautious. An elderly lady caught my attention as she sat alone at a nearby table. Her wrinkled face wore a distant expression, and her eyes seemed to hold a lifetime of stories. A sense of sadness washed over me, wondering what life might have thrown her way. Time passed, and the night grew quieter. I was lost in thought when a group of rowdy young men stumbled into the diner, their laughter echoing through the empty space. They reeked of alcohol, and their reckless behavior sent shivers down my spine. The old lady looked up briefly, her eyes meeting mine for a moment before she returned to her coffee, seemingly unbothered by the commotion. I couldn't help but admire her calm demeanor amidst the chaos. One of the young men, taller and more imposing than the rest, seemed to fixate on the elderly lady. He swaggered over, his companions following like a pack of hungry wolves. My heart pounded, not knowing what to expect. "Hey, old hag, what are you doing here all alone?" the guy slurred, his words dripping with arrogance and hostility. The lady looked up again, her eyes steady but weary. "Just having some coffee, dear. I'm not bothering anyone." "Well, you're bothering us," he sneered, his companion snickering behind him. My hands clenched into fists, and I debated whether to intervene, but fear kept me rooted to my seat. I couldn't predict what might unfold, and I didn't want to escalate the situation further. The young man reached out and snatched the old lady's cup, causing some of the hot liquid to spill. She gasped in pain, but her composure remained unbroken. Her steely gaze seemed to pierce through the veil of alcohol-fueled bravado. "You shouldn't mess with things you don't understand," she said, her voice surprisingly firm. The guy's laughter faltered, as if her words had sent a chill through his drunken haze. He hesitated for a moment, then grinned maliciously. "You're just an old bag of bones. What are you gonna do?" Before anyone could react, he swung his fist at her, connecting with her fragile frame. I winced at the impact, my heart sinking further into my chest. The diner fell into a stunned silence, as if time had frozen for that split second. But the old lady was no ordinary grandmother. As she staggered back, something inexplicable happened. Her eyes flashed with an unnatural gleam, and her frail appearance seemed to transform into an aura of power. "I warned you," she whispered, her voice hauntingly calm. The young man's face contorted with terror as he clutched his chest, struggling to breathe. His companions gaped in disbelief, unsure of what they were witnessing. The old lady raised a hand, her fingers trembling with an unseen energy. The young man gasped and wheezed, the life draining from him right before our eyes. His friends tried to help, but it was as if an invisible force held them back. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the horrifying spectacle. It was like something out of a macabre nightmare. The jukebox's eerie tune seemed to grow louder, blending with the sound of gasps and desperate pleas. Finally, with a flick of her wrist, the old lady released her hold on the young man. He collapsed to the floor, motionless, his life snuffed out like a candle in the dark. The diner erupted into chaos, and I stumbled out into the night, unable to comprehend what I had just witnessed. I didn't look back as I fled that haunted diner, my mind filled with the haunting image of the old lady, both vulnerable and powerful, and the life she had taken with a mere gesture. To this day, I can't shake the memory of that night. The old diner stands abandoned now, its windows boarded up, and its jukebox forever silent. The legend of the old lady who possessed an otherworldly power has become a chilling tale, whispered by those who dare to enter that forsaken place after dark. Sometimes, late at night, I can almost hear the faint echo of that eerie tune, a reminder of the horrors that lurk in the shadows when the world falls silent. I've learned to avoid that part of town, but the memory of the old lady's cryptic warning still lingers in the back of my mind, a haunting reminder that some things are best left untouched, no matter how curious we may be. I've always been drawn to the mysterious allure of nature, especially during the late hours when the world slumbers. One summer night, curiosity got the better of me, and I found myself wandering into the dense forest that surrounded my town. The moonlight bathed the woodland in an eerie glow, and a sense of foreboding enveloped me, but I brushed it off as mere imagination and ventured deeper into the darkness. With each step, the rustling of leaves beneath my feet seemed to whisper secrets, and the distant hooting of an owl sent shivers down my spine. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying foliage, making me feel both enchanted and uneasy. As I walked on, a peculiar rustling caught my attention, My flashlight danced erratically, casting unsettling shadows amidst the trees. My eyes widened as I glimpsed a fleeting figure, humanoid yet twisted, vanishing behind the trees. Fear gripped my heart, but I couldn't tear myself away from the allure of the unknown. My resolve strengthened as I heard soft, distant music echoing through the woods. It was enchanting, but something about it seemed unnaturally alluring, as if it were beckoning me deeper into the forest's clutches. My heart pounded with a mix of excitement and fear, but curiosity had its hold on me. As I continued, the music grew louder, and soon I stumbled upon a clearing. There, bathed in the moonlight, stood a group of figures swaying rhythmically around a flickering fire. The dance seemed hypnotic, and I couldn't help but be drawn closer, my feet moving of their own accord. The dancers wore tattered garments, their faces obscured by shadows, and the music emanated from an old gramophone perched atop a rotting log. I watched, transfixed, as they moved in perfect synchrony, their movements almost unnatural, like marionettes controlled by invisible strings. Abruptly the music ceased, and the dancers turned their heads in unison, locking their hollow eyes on me. Panic seized me, and I tried to back away, but my body refused to comply. A sinister smile crept across their faces, and my voice caught in my throat. One of them stepped forward, their hand outstretched. A chill ran down my spine as I saw long skeletal fingers beckoning me towards them. The fear was tangible, my mind urging me to flee, but my body moved closer, compelled by some unseen force. With every step I felt a strange sensation, as though I were crossing a barrier between the living and the unknown. My senses heightened, and I could hear the faint whispers of the forest, as if the very trees were talking to me. But their words were incomprehensible, a cryptic language that left me feeling unnerved. As I stood before the dancers, the figure in front of me extended their bony hand towards my forehead. My heart pounded in my ears, but I couldn't pull away. Their icy touch sent shivers down my spine, and suddenly images flooded my mind. I saw ancient rituals, unspeakable horrors, and lost souls wandering the woods for eternity. The dancers were not human, but entities trapped between worlds, forever bound to this cursed realm. Their dance was a ritual, a call to those who dare venture into the whispering woods, ensnaring them in their eternal dance of death. My mind reeled with horror, and I felt as though I was losing myself to the darkness. But just as quickly as the visions came, they receded, leaving me weak and trembling. The dancers retreated, their eerie smiles fading into the shadows. The forest seemed to sigh with relief, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. I stumbled backward, my senses returning to normal, and I fled the woods as fast as my legs would carry me. I never spoke of that night, but the memory haunted me. The whispering woods held secrets too terrifying to comprehend, and I vowed never to venture there again. Yet, a part of me still wonders what lies hidden amidst the darkness, waiting for the next unsuspecting wanderer to join their eternal dance.